Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Monday, June 9th, and today we're going to talk about the news. That's right, the news. Let me get right into it, but first, viewer mail. Connie Anderson, let me see what Connie says. Connie Anderson of Iowa City, Iowa, says this: the Baldwin brothers are a national treasure. How do you feel about that? Jeez. I had someone introduce me, Connie, on a talk show as American royalty because of the fact that I have famous brothers that are actors, and I guess I've contributed to that some too. I don't. How do I comment to that? Wow, thank you so much for considering us royalty or American treasures or whatever. I will say that it is rare to be successful in the acting business. And I think this is where I'll tell you how I feel about what makes it special, what makes it very different. So to have Alec, Billy, Steven, and myself all be actors is a bit strange. To have four boys in one family all become actors, because the numbers back in the day were 1 in 2,500 actors makes enough income to live off of without having to subsidize their income with some other occupation or job. So think about that. That's pretty disparaging, 1 in 2,500. So to think that you're one of those people that has been able to make a living for decades and not have to go get another job is pretty cool. That you've broken the rule and you're an exception by far. To have four boys in one family all be able to say that they've made a living in varying degrees. Obviously, Alec is like he makes way more money. He's a big movie star. But to be able to say that all four boys from one family, even that is not the greatest rarity, I find. The part that is most intriguing. When your last name is Sheen, you're Charlie Sheen, you're Emilio Estevez, you're, his family, the Cusacks from Chicago, their mom and dad were in the acting business. They were teachers, very well known, had taught many, many big names that came out of Chicago. But anyway, you go on and on, the Barrymores, and so on, Carradines, the Keaches. I think most of them, if not all, had some other family member that was in the business. So having someone that blazed the trail for you, that had contacts for you, that knew agents for you, that knew other producers that could help you get work, none of that took place. There was never anyone in the Baldwin family that was a producer, that was a director, that was an actor, that was an agent, that was a lawyer, that was anything. So I think there lies the very strange thing about the four of us, is that we were able to go to LA and in New York and be able to make a living without any other family connection before us. Now, after us, there's been family members that have gotten involved. My daughter Kaylee is in the television and film business. I don't know how much being my daughter helped her or not. She certainly didn't ask me for a lot of help. I know that Steven's daughter Haley has done very, very well. I think being a Baldwin probably helped her somewhat in the beginning of her career, but I don't know. But again, for our kids, it will be probably easier than it was for us because there was nobody before us. So I think that's what makes it really, really interesting and rare for myself and my three brothers. So thanks for your question. Please remember, if you can subscribe or hit like or both would be great. Share the show with other people because it's really important that we get the word out there that we want people to be educated, learn things. We want to hear your opinion. We want your questions. So write in questions. Please write in questions. That's really, really important to us. Let's get on with today's show because it's an interesting show. What do the letters news stand for? The letters news do not stand for north, east, west, and south, which I thought was a cool story, and because news comes from every direction, I hung on to that, and I've told that before. So I don't know if I like this or not, but I'm going to stick to that. Noteworthy events, weather, and sports. It's a simple word that refers to reports of new information about current events. The word news is plural for new, meaning new things or happenings. Well, that's kind of simplistic, and I might buy that. So it's new. Hey, what's new? hey man, what's new? So, I mean, I've said that to lots of people before. And I guess in a way, what's news is new things, plural. So I like that. News comes from a variety of sources, both formal and informal, and is often categorized as hard news or soft news. Hard news focuses on current events and factual reporting, while soft news includes features, opinions, and lifestyle topics. News sources include. So let's look at that statement there, because hard news focuses on current events and factual reporting. And the reason why I decided that I wanted to do this show was because, I don't know about you, but I have no clue anymore what's true. I really don't. I know things I want to believe. I know that, in the stereotypical, Fox is for the Republicans, CNN, MSNBC, and other factions. There's a lot more of them that focus more on what seems to be the Democratic Party, the left's interests. But I honestly, even things like NPR and, stuff that I thought was kind of neutral, that was generic, it's really not, as the word comes out about who funds it. So listen, you can work for someone, and if you're relatively quiet and don't stir the ship too much, you can get away with having a different opinion. I thought this country was based on that. I really did. But when it comes to the news, it's not. It's clearly not. If you're going to voice your opinion in any kind of job that goes against the ownership, forget about the management. You may have a coach bench you and not play you as much, but the one that pays you is the one that's going to have the last say. And so you don't really have the freedom anymore to voice a completely different opinion of something when it comes to ownership in any job job setting. I don't think so. I think it's very interesting to look at the word factual, because how do we know what's factual? Who's fact checking the news? And this is what this whole show boils down to today, that fact checking thing, because I can see reports sometimes that are so diametrically different about the same exact event. January 6th and this and that, and then videotape evidence comes out that it wasn't anything what people were saying. It wasn't anything like that. Or there was a small handful of people that really were the culprits. Anyway, so I asked AI, I asked news outlets, I went and I asked a question that there is no definitive answer to. There is no definitive answer or actual factual answer behind something that has to do with projecting the future. So listen to the question. What will the next 10 years be like in America? That's what I asked. In the next 10 years, the U.S. will likely experience a shift in demographics, economic challenges, and ongoing climate change issues. The U.S. population will continue to grow, with racial minorities, particularly Hispanics, becoming the main engine of demographic change. The economy will face challenges related to tariffs, trade uncertainty, and potential slowdown in growth. Climate change impacts will continue to intensify, including more extreme heat, wildfires, and droughts. Now, I'm not, I don't want to challenge the racial minorities, particularly Hispanics. Do I have any prejudice? I look at most of that overall report. And do you notice that most of them are negative things? Most of them are, with the exception of what happens with Hispanics, which I welcome anyone that comes in the right way to America, the land of opportunity and freedom. But tariffs, trade uncertainty, slowdown in growth, climate change impacts, heat, wildfires, droughts, everything about that question that I asked, because it could have said things that it projects that are going to happen that are great. America becomes more patriotic. America holds the hand of the immigrant that comes in and welcomes them as part of our new giant country that grows and swells into the preeminent superpower of the world. I mean, I could go on. Healthcare gets better. New discoveries in healthcare and cancer, and none of it. All stuff to jar you, to scare you, that have a negative connotation to them. Let me go into the demographics. So population growth, the U.S. population will continue to increase, reaching nearly 350 million in the next 10 years. Aging population. The population will continue to age with the number of elderly individuals increasing. Declining white population. The proportion of whites in the population will decline. I thought that was interesting. Unemployment. Unemployment rates may increase initially, but are expected to stabilize or decline over time. Inflation. Inflation may rise in the coming years, although not to the levels previously anticipated. Federal debt. Federal debt held by the public is projected to increase significantly. Increased impacts, coastal risks, environmental concerns. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on about the projections of the simple question, what does the next 10 years look like in America? So I started looking at that. I started looking at my doubts that I have about the information that I get, particularly politically, as the alliances grow more obvious between certain parties and certain demographics and so on. You know, you're fed what's going to sell. That's the part that I've really been able to surmise about this is you're fed what sells. Oh my goodness, purple sand. I have been forgetting to turn that over every episode now, but there we have it. Listen to this, because this is a syndrome, a psychological fact. Negative news often sells better than positive news due to the combination of psychological factors and news reporting biases. Humans are naturally more drawn to negative stimuli, and negative news tends to elicit stronger emotional responses and engagement. Additionally, news outlets may prioritize reporting negative events for various reasons, including the perception that they are more compelling and easier to cover. So it is with intent. It is intentional that they are reporting negative things. I have to tell you that as a kid growing up in the 60s and 70s, news conscious more in the 70s and the 60s. 60s, I was a kid. I was running out the door to go play ball, and I was born in 1960. So the first 10 years, I'm not really paying attention, but I'm more alert. Watergate, I can remember the Vietnam War. I can remember watching that. I can remember the astronauts landing on the moon. I can remember, different things, but negative or positive. There was a lot more positive. There was reports about, and today in the feel-good section, Tommy Malloy was, or the story about a person that saved someone that was drowning. There was feel-good stories, and there was stuff that, there was more of a mutual respect politically. They may not have liked each other. They may have pointed out negative things about their issues, but there wasn't the awful things about the people and their personal life. That really wasn't in the news. And definitely a lot more feel-good stuff. I don't see any of that really that much. Maybe in local news you might see more of it, but not in the national news. The national news is negative, 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 right for the throat. It's a hard pill to swallow. Ooh, I just bumped that. It's a hard pill to swallow for me because my stimuli that I read about why the news is negative from a psychological standpoint, from a human standpoint. It sells better. Bottom line, it sells better. And so I went on to research that more because I found that very compelling and amazing. I personally would like to see some more positive stuff. I'd like people to tell me about research that's curing diseases or, that feel-good story about an individual that went out of their way and went the extra mile to go do something for someone. I'm attracted to those stories as well. So why is that stimuli so evident? Why is this the way the news goes? Well, there's a few things that I read. One of them was that your life in general, and believe it or not, I read this, your life in general is pretty crappy. It's, there isn't really a lot of the average person advancement. They're going to change their life dramatically. It's going to improve greatly. So why not just tell you stuff about how bad it is everywhere else to make you feel better about yourself? And I actually looked at that and I went, did they really do that? Do they really just beat you down with stuff that's going on that's negative so you feel better about your mundane life? I thought, wow. That's awful, man. Like, I hope that's not true. And yet I read article after article after article about the psychology of it. The other thing is diversion. When you look at and there's two levels to this, the second one I found really fascinating. There's the direction that the news outlet wants you to go, what they want you to follow. For instance, they talked about 60 Minutes. And 60 Minutes is on like an 11-week run now of just pounding Trump. I mean, just everything they talk about, and a vast majority of it. I mean, I remember watching 60 Minutes when it was Mike Wallace and Dan Rather, and, guys came out there and they talked about, they were explosive stories, but it wasn't about one person or one administration or one guy. And it never, they didn't go week after week after week talking about Jimmy Carter, or week after week after week talking about Ronald Reagan, or there might have been a segment, a mention or something, but it was much more diverse. Now, the show appears to be an attack mode, a weapon. It's a weapon used against him to criticize everything he does. If this guy farts on a golf course, he's golfing again, he spent the money, the gas was stolen from, government contracts that he has with Putin, and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like there's an agenda behind that show. It appears. I don't write the show, but it certainly more than appears. In the regular news, which I think should have a certain responsibility of being accurate and true. Now, you can have opinion after you report the truth, meaning that, the president he voted for, and blah, blah. Now, here's why we think this sucks, or here's why we think this is a great thing. Tariffs, this is why, but don't lie and say that there are tariffs or there's numbers, or jumble them, or say things that are misleading about the facts of it. That's very, very dangerous. And the fact of the matter is, they do it. Both sides, they both do it. The second thing that I thought I told you was even better was how the news can be used to distract you. That there are actually people that meet that talk about, listen, this is going to be a bad week. We're impeaching Trump, or we're going to start proceedings against Joe Biden. So let's go with Trump does this. This submarine is at the bottom of the ocean in the Atlantic with some billionaire in it, and there's noise coming from the submarine, and oh my God, and the whole country is polarized by these people that are stuck in this little submergible. When the actual fact of the matter is it imploded on day 2, the Navy knew that it was gone, but it kept everyone off what was really going on in the country. Here's the stories you missed during that week. And then you go on to look at impeachment proceedings were being voted on against Joe Biden, that this, and this, and Hunter Biden's laptop, and blah, blah. And again, I'm not just picking on the Bidens, because I think they all do it. I think Fox has an agenda. Like I said, CNN has an agenda that are affiliated with, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. But if we're not getting the facts, or if we're not getting information that's being subdued or hidden with other stories that are just crap, so that you don't know what's going on, that should be illegal, or shouldn't it? Shouldn't there be some regulation against that? Shouldn't, if you can prove that a news agency knew what they were reporting, that they just outright, or the White House outright made it up to attack the Democrats or to attack the Republicans, or what do we really know about Hillary and her role in Benghazi, and that they actually have the facts and they're not reporting them, or they're changing the facts in order to sway your vote or your opinion, or to elude potential ramifications for the illegal activities that they were involved in. Hey man, it's so confusing. It's so confusing. Like, I look at the younger generation now, I look at my kids. I have 2 teenage daughters, and they hear how political I am. And, I've got my older brother, Alec, who's got a pretty big mouth, and, he makes his views known. Billy, who absolutely hates Trump, and he makes his views known. And, on Twitter, he's a savage. Stephen, I don't know what he's doing anymore. He's got a show, but I don't hear much from him. I keep hearing how he's retired politically. I don't know what that means, but I guess he's not gonna stand behind anybody anymore. he stands behind God, and I bless him for that. I think that's a great thing, but I don't know. I wish he'd get back in the game a little bit. Which one's telling the truth? Are any of them telling the truth? Is there not some way to fact check it, to make it known what side, or even if it's on a side, what issue? Go issue by issue. Should we put up a warning thing, like from some agency that goes, hey, we looked at this? Because even when you look at the fact checking, even when you look at, post-debate stuff, and they fact check, Trump lied or misled, or they all do. They all do it. I'm not sitting here saying that the Republicans aren't part of this process, but it's the game that's being played. So, and the same for the Democrats. Who started it? What came first, the chicken, the egg? Who cares? I just don't know what to base my decision on when I know for a fact that I'm being lied to. So, aren't you tired of that? Shouldn't there be some government agency, some neutral, or would they just never agree to that either? And I don't know, man. It's so, maybe printed all the information online and let people vote or something. But here's a question. All these different questions I asked online, AI, whatever, Google, Safari, I asked I go to different modes. But an AI overview is not available for this search. Now, every single thing I asked about this show, every single search I did on the news, AI had an answer. It's very rare to me that AI has no answer or no information about a question that I asked. There's none? None? Artificial intelligence can't come up with some when it's been in the news and has been out there? And you mean to tell me that I said, why are news outlets not responsible for telling the truth, and why are they allowed to lie? That was my question. An AI overview is not available for this search. There's no regulations about news. Here's the real answer. I went into it. Why the News is Not the Truth by the Harvard Business Review. The news media and the government have created a charade that serves their own interests but misleads the public, was the opening statement. And the other thing that I learned was news are shows. They're under entertainment. They have zero obligation to tell you by any kind of regulatory authority that what they're saying is true. They're like watching a sitcom. They're like watching a drama that can make up the names of the people, that can make up the outcome, that could say everyone died in the building, but it's written, it's fiction. The news is entertainment. It's on television. It has no obligation to be accurate or tell the truth to you. I found that dumbfounding. Now, granted, if you pick out an individual and you say something about them, you could have, be sued for slander or libel. But again, you have to prove damages. You have to be able to substantiate what the cost of that is to you. And then you have to win that in court and settle and see whether they can pay you or not. And that's happened before. People have been sued for what has been said in a newspaper or whatever, and the paper has had to fork over money. I think they have insurance for all that stuff anyway. But most of the time, if they say something about you and you sue for it, you only put the story in the news longer and longer and longer. And then all the outlets are covering the fact that you're suing, CNN for making a statement. The story about you winning and CNN losing and making up something about you is on page 94 of some magazine 2 months later. So you're never going to get the sensationalized kick that you get when it's the headline and they come out and they say so-and-so raped so-and-so. And you go, what? Yes, she said he did it. Oh, wait a minute. I thought you said he did it. Well, she said he did it, and she's a good witness and very real and very believable and then you find out the whole thing was bullshit. And that's, again, both sides. I'm not pointing my finger at one side. I'm just saying I'm so frustrated with what the news really is, and that this is the source of information that I have to rely on for myself to come up with an opinion. And my opinion will be greatly swayed by the facts. What does this bring to our country? What's the long-term effect of this? What's the short-term effect of it? Will there be lives at stake? Economically, will it cost me more money? Will blah, blah, I could go on and on and on and on. And then I hear completely different versions depending upon who's reporting that news. How can a fact be so different? How can a fact be diametrically opposing each other if it's really a fact? I'm dumbfounded, and I don't know what to do about the dilemma. I really don't, because I count on this information. I count on going online, but when I read AI overview is not available for this search, what does that mean to me? To me, what does that mean? That means that if you have an opinion on almost every other damn thing that's on there, that someone that's controlling the AI reporting is has an interest in what comes out. If it was neutral, it would tell me the things that I had to go deeper in a search, and it would have a report on that. But it doesn't. It doesn't. It reminds me of when, what's this silly little thing you have, the speaker, and you talk into it. I'm blacking out right now. I need more coffee. Alexa. So a friend of mine called me during the last election, Harris and Trump, and said, have you ever asked Alexa who would be a better candidate to vote for? Or why should you vote for Harris? So I said, no. I said, you have Alexa, don't you? I said, the kids have it. It's upstairs, like in the bathroom or something. So I go up to her and I said, Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris? And it said, Kamala Harris has experience in California as a lawmaker, and it went on this, her diversity as a woman, as an African-American, and it spit out a monologue that was probably, 2 minutes long. And that's a long time to listen to that. 2 minutes about the qualifications this woman has, why she should be elected. And it actually was more than not just, here's reasons why you could elect her. It was reasons why you should elect her. It was telling me to vote for her in the verbiage that came out. This is why you should vote for, So, and I thought, okay. And so I called my friend up on the phone. I said, I listened, it was like a promo for her. He goes, yeah, did you ask about Trump? I said, no. I said, I told you to do both. So I said, Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump? At first, it told me all these terrible things about him. Donald Trump is blah, 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 and should not, it was awful. And I thought, how does Alexa, who's, I thought neutral politically, is dissuading me from voting for Trump? And then shortly after that, because it got out, people were sending out, look at how ridiculous this is. It said, we have no interest in making political decisions. We have no information about Donald Trump. Like, it just shut it down. Like, couldn't tell me anything. But when I went back and asked about Kamala Harris, it went on the same monologue. But how brilliant she is, what a lawmaker she is, her experience in California, why she would make a great president, why I should vote for her. Now again, forget about what my opinions are on the candidates, who I voted for. I think it's obvious when you listen to my show, you know where my vote went. I just, in fairness to something that should be neutral, I believe, who programs that? Somebody programs that. That's not some giant eye in the sky, the voice of God or whatever. Someone puts that information out and says, I have no opinion on Donald Trump. It doesn't promote him, but promotes the other candidate, which lends me to believe that this is programmed by a pro-left agency of some type that has access to this information. Same as my asking on Google. This is a Google search. So Google, why are the news outlets not responsible for lying and misleading? An AI overview is not available for this search. If I wrote, why isn't Trump and his people, his administration responsible? Oh, it would have had a report. It would have had something to say. It would have. So these are party-affiliated sources. There's political parties that gain from these searches, and they're not run by the Republicans, not the general ones that I can find. So I find that very discouraging. I think it's very, very discouraging to not be able to say, I'm going to get, even on things that aren't so political, conditions of the ocean, fresh water supply, air, things that climate control. There's a whole side that thinks that the climate control thing is just a big moneymaker and a bunch of crap. So, and that the half a degree warmer that it is in the last 200 years, at that rate, it'll be 5 degrees warmer in a million years or some nonsense, So again, and I'm misspeaking the numbers, but there's people that scientists that say that's nonsense. That right now in Antarctica, the first growth of the ice shelf has started and has been reported this year. So if global warming is true, and that's why the ice was all melting, why is it growing back? This is just a cold year? Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe that this report that I just read to you that says that the sea levels are going to get higher in Florida and different places, the coastline is going to erode, and you need to head towards the mountains and the highland because it's all going to be gone in 10 years. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I just know that it's really confusing to me. And I wish that there was a way that there was like a button that allowed me to get the news, just the truth, the facts that we know with no opinion. And I could draw my own opinion. I could look at that and say, that makes sense, or I'm not sure I buy that. But when I can't find even the information, is the air quality in New York City, oh yes, it's devastating. What's going to happen in the next 10 years? Oh, it's fine. What are you talking about? There's some days Denver has a smog, LA has a smog. It's no worse or better than it's been in the last 10 years, and it's not getting any worse. Don't worry about it. It's not the healthiest air to breathe, but if you want healthy air, go to Alaska. So again, I want to know the facts. Just tell me the facts, but they are so unavailable. Or if they are the facts, you're not sure which one to believe because they're so diametrically different that goes on there. So I hate to end on this note. That Harvard Business Review says why the news is not the truth. The news media and the government have created a charade that serves their own interests but misleads the public. That, my friends, is a fact. That is absolutely a fact. We are being lied to because there is an agenda involved that directs your money, that directs your attention, that directs your vote, that tries to control you, that tries to mislead you. That's all fact. Absolutely fact. So, I don't know. We got to form an agency or some society, the fact readers, something. I don't know. Maybe I'll get involved in that. Maybe that's something that could be a goal of mine. Just the facts. We take topics and we tear them apart and we give you the actual science. If that's possible. If the science isn't being misrepresented, and I think that happens too. Sad. Depends on who's paying the bills, I guess. So I'm going to go into some prayer. So Lord God, we thank you so much for your abundance and for your guiding hand and for the security that you give us, Lord. We as Americans, we're a diverse group, God. And we know that you oversee us and that you watch over us and that you protect us, God. And we praise you so much for that. We believe in you, our faith is with you, and we ask you, Lord, please take us to the promised land in this country because there's a lot of stuff going on that we really don't know what's true and what's not true, but we know you're true, Lord. We know that you are the divine power, that you are not Democrat, not Republican, you're God. And we love you for it, God. Praise, 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 praise Jesus Christ. Amen. So let's leave it up to God. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with that. At the end of the day, he's going to make it known. He's going to be the one. And those other people that misled us or misdirected us for whatever the reasons they did, they'll pay. They will pay, particularly if they don't know the Lord. So amen to you. Please hit like, hit subscribe, share it. Let's get the show moving. Let's get it out there. I pray for blessings for all of you in your life. Amen. Have a great day.